Alright. You ready? Round 2, mother... What's up, everybody? It's your favorite rematch's favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the Gigapower Grassor, the HQ OTX version, which has the more intense paint applications on it. And I can tell you straight away, it's probably the most beautifully painted Transformer figure in a Masterpiece line that I've ever seen, hands down. So it's going to have that going for it regardless. This is on loan to me from Jeremy B, and I appreciate him letting me take a look at it. He was supposed to pick it up at Skullfest, I think, this weekend, but unfortunately Skullfest is canceled due to the current situation. I have a long history with this mold. It's haunted me in many ways. So today we're going to look at it. We're going to take special care with the tail, and we're going to give it another go and hopefully create a clean slate for both me and the Grassor mold. But in order to do that, we need to start with accessories. So it comes with 3 additional heads. One is an angry head version of the one that comes stock on him, and it means an angry expression and the red eyes. Other than that, it's decoed the same way, which we'll get to when we get to the figure. But he comes with that, and then he comes with 2 red versions, one with the stoic face that comes stock, and then one with the angry face, both with the blue eyes. No silver accents and no paint on the teeth, which is a bit of a bummer in my opinion. Now, it has, I guess, a little decal thing on there. I don't know how you want to roll with that, but this is what it comes with, and it's bagged up like an 8-ball. Of course, he comes with this signature sword. We have the red translucent. It is battery operated. There are no batteries included, and I don't keep a stash of these little weird batteries around, so I don't have it. But it is shaded and highlighted, and the way that they're doing this is, it looks like to me, airbrushing for the shading and then dry brushing for the highlights, and it is beautifully done. He can hold that just fine by tapping into the palm of his hand and then wrapping his fingers around. He also comes with a gun. It is red translucent here at the tip, so to speak, and then the rest of it is all shadowed, highlighted, detailed the same way, which is to say airbrushing for the shading, it looks like, and then dry brushing for the highlights. And once again, it's done beautifully. There's your on-off button. He'll hold that the same way, and you can even adjust his finger to kind of get it inside the trigger guard there on the articulation on the finger. There's also a space in the box for the 2 side missiles that the original release came with, but they weren't in here. So I'm not sure what's up with that. But they go in Dinosaur mode, which, by the way, is the mode that we're starting in because we did the transformation from robot to Dinosaur mode the last time, so I like to have both modes on my channel if possible. Gimmick-wise, he comes with all of the kind of translucent plates here that are kind of tinted to go over the thing so it looks more like the G1 toy. If I got news for you. If you are using any of this to cover up the paint job on this figure, you are doing it wrong. However, he does come with them if you so desire. So let's talk about Dinosaur mode. The fins move about a little bit, and then you get his head kind of on a hinge, limited up, limited down. You do get a little bit of a swivel. Actually, you get a lot of bit of a swivel, I suppose. And his mouth does open to an extreme. So that's cool. No issues there, really. Blue eyes are painted. Red horns. I love this, like, shading in between the seams of the horns. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. I'll kind of drool over the paint on this a little bit more in robot mode, probably. But, like, look at all of this. The blue, the red, the green, the gold, the silver, the dry brushing, the weathering, the washes, the airbrush shading, etc. It's insane. So the arms ratcheted forward and back and out to the side, but there's no ankle rocker here at the front, so you probably won't use out to the side all that much. The joint's a little ornery also. Forward and back. You get the swivel at the bicep, you get the knee, which is an elbow in robot mode, that's ratcheted, and then you get a toe tilt down. For the back legs, you get the out to the side movement, once again no rocker on the ankle, so kind of useless, and then you get the knee, right? Which is a pretty cool joint, like the way that that covers down and out, so no issues there. The feet are die cast. I think that's the only die cast on this guy. And then you get the tail, you get a wiggle waggle, and that's it. Nothing up or down, just the one little wiggle waggle. Now, my issue with this thing has always been the proportions of it, the lack of neck. It just seems like the head is too big for the body. I'm not crazy about this aesthetically, but I've already kind of made my point about that. So like, it's no sense in criticizing this one for it. It's like the drag strip we just recently looked at. I'm not gonna hold a repaint of that mold accountable for what I hold the initial release, because at that point you already know the vibes, right? So if you make a decision to get it, you've accepted that. You know, so we're only going to mention new criticisms here. The shading in the fins is absolutely gorgeous, by the way. And other than that, there's not a whole lot to talk about, you know. It's painted beautifully. The gold, the metallic paints here and there, like, it's just... The brush is really, really, really taken to this thing in a very serious way. Let's do some size comparisons. There it is with Scoria. As you can see, it just towers over it, right? It's much bigger. That's kind of the Gigapower, you know, the allure, right? Is that people like the size of them better. Once again, I think that the Fans Toys one is a little long. However, proportionately, I like the head to body more than I like the Gigapower. Paint jobs, obviously, the Gigapower blows this thing out of the water because this is one of the most beautiful paint jobs that we've ever seen. But aside from that, there they are, size comparison wise, but no size comparison is complete, of course, without Tiger Tracks. So let's get them transformed. You could start with the tail, but I don't wanna. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna tuck the toe in. We're gonna angle the foot back. We're gonna open this flap, and we're gonna collapse that thigh or knee, or I guess it's thigh, into the hip rather. Collapse the toe, open this flap, collapse the leg, rotate the leg back. All right, moment of truth. That's my Tony Soprano voice. I'm gonna use a spudger this time. I'm gonna try to break the seal. Oh, I don't even want to say break. Try to open the seal. Try to disconnect the seal. I'm using extreme caution. All right, what's going on? So there's a peg here, pegging these two pieces together. I'm going to do it off camera just to be safe because I don't want to break this thing. And I'll come back once I've got it. And I've got it. It's the paint. You can see it's chipping around this peg. Luckily, the peg is kind of big enough to kind of keep the structural integrity of it, but gooey, googa mooga, was that scary. Okay, so take the tail. You want to bring it about 90 degrees across, like perpendicular, and then bring it down, rotate it the last 90 degrees. Let's see if I've done that wrong. There we go. And then tuck it inside, and that goes the same for this opposite side. 90 degrees down, bring it down, and then another 90 degrees, tuck it in, and then using this section of the tail here, a double hinge, bring it up, ooh, sit it against its back, and you have done it, and the tail is intact. Looks like this round goes to me. At this point, you can kind of start splitting some of this stuff apart, but I found that as you move these wings out, the legs seem to start kind of coming untabbed a little bit anyway, and it allows for an easier kind of disconnect. So you want to get these wings up and out of the way, and just be mindful of them around the arm. Like I just rubbed against this one. It doesn't seem to have done any damage, but just be mindful. We're going to undo these locks here on both sides, and I lock it back up when I'm done. It's just because I think this thing makes me nervous. So unfurl the sides. That little give in the lock will allow it to move a little easier out and around. I'm not even sure if you can do it without unlocking it. And then I just go ahead and lock it back together just in the meantime, just to kind of keep as many pieces as taut as possible. Now we're gonna do a little tidying up. Tuck these little gray pieces up and around, so 90-90. Same on this side, 90-90. And then take your backpack, if it hasn't already come split, you know, from moving it about, split it. They're on double hinges, they'll rock down. Then rotate at the thigh swivel 180 degrees so that the feet are facing the back of the Dinosaur. Now we need to tuck the outer leg inside, so unlock it with this black latch here. Move it down. Move the Dinosaur leg inside the leg, the robot leg, and then adjust it as need be to kind of get your robot leg to clear the Dinosaur leg. You can use this hinge, this ratcheted hinge here at the knee to kind of give yourself a little bit more space and lock it in place. Then do the same on the other side. Unlock the leg, open it up, take this assembly and rotate it around to the inside. Now you can leave this out in robot mode if you want the more G1 toy look. But if you want it to be cleaner, you can also kind of just do that. And then close this back up and lock it back together. There. You can spin the waist 180, spin the jaw 180 degrees, put that against the inside of the mouth, open up the chest cavity here, at which point you can flip his head up and around. And once you've done that, then you can settle the Triceratops head kind of back in that position, which will allow the head to get fully up, so to speak, and then you can close up the chest piece. Then the last step is to open up the bottom flaps of the forearms and flip the hands out. And these can be super ornery. It's not a great clearance that they allow. I think the fists are supposed to be down. I couldn't even get it in the space with the fists down. So that's a bit of a bummer. I'm gonna get him cleaned up. We'll take a look at him. So let's take a look at the figure. And much like the Dinosaur mode, it is beautiful. And I guess it's gonna be hard to kind of really show everything, but I'm gonna do my best. So once again, there's kind of a trend here with the shading. Looks like it's done in airbrush and washes. So there's a wash, inside here. It's in Dinosaur mode as well, but just to reiterate, and then the airbrush looks like it's kind of around it to me. It's either that or the airbrush is a wash, because there's that as well. I'm not exactly sure what they're doing. And then on top of that, they have this dry brushing here for the weathering, like the silver. It's around the little creases there. It's really everywhere. Shading. It's like in every little crease. Like, it's really beautifully done. I'm a paint guy. Paint speaks to me. Accents speak to me. So this is right up my alley. Now, it's inside the joint. Like, they just did it everywhere. It's beautiful. So the head is on a ball joint, and because of the kind of dinosaur bits behind him, he does suffer from a little bit of articulation. This is common with this character, so you get a limited up, good bit down, limited side to side. Now, my kids are running around like elephants upstairs. Tons of sculpted detail in the helmet, tons of sculpted detail down here in the chest. Throughout, we have the silver accents, the black accents throughout. All of it's done beautifully. To go along with that, you have a swivel for the waist, and you don't have an ab crunch because this was kind of before the era where ab crunch became a standard. Universal joints at the shoulders. I say that to say you really can't hold it against them. Universal joints for the shoulders, ratcheted on a soft ratchet out to 90 degrees about. Hard ratchet around, and you can get as far as the kibble will allow. Once again, shading, and it has like this, almost like this rust effect, weathering done to it. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Translucent there. The whole thing has a finish, plus dry brushing throughout and washes. Speaking my language, man, what do you want from me? Bicep swivel, little tight, but it's there. Elbow, single hinge, gets you 90 degrees on a ratchet. Soft ratchet, it feels like, hard to tell. Wrist, swivel. We have a ball peg with a hinge for the thumb. All the fingers are individually articulated with a base ball peg and then hinged fingers at the secondary and tertiary knuckles. So, fully articulated. Moving on to the hips, we'll adjust the camera a bit. We have hip skirts. They'll get out to the side and out to the front. With that, we have universals, ratcheted, little limited moving forward. No issue really out to the side. That's pretty much the full Van Damme. I say we give it to him. Thigh swivel built around the universal, which is, in my opinion, the perfect way to do business there. The shading, weathering, etc. continues through. The knees, single hinged, a little less than 90 degrees. You do have this bulky kibble on the back, which has always kind of been a complaint of mine regarding this guy. But they are ratcheted and they do move fairly well. Paint-wise, though, not a single complaint. The tail that we already talked about is beautiful, and then the legs, all the weathering, dry brushing, shading, etc., etc. Gold, red, black accents throughout. Translucent plastic there to cover up those bits. No complaints whatsoever. Now, there's no ankle articulation. You get a little bit in the toes, a slight ankle tilt down, nothing really up, and a slight rocker. Now, the outward motion of the knee you can use to cheat it for a rocker, but once again, it's not the best, right? It's not optimal there. So that's kind of a bummer. I love the paint on the feet, how it comes through, really looks good. And like, I'm guessing this is all, you know, hand done because like they don't match, they're not all perfect, which I think actually gives it some charm. I said in my my initial like thoughts of this, my like first impressions, that it has a Play Arts Kai feel to it in regard to paint, and I still feel that way. There it is from the back, as much as we can. We'll show down, up, and he's a big fella. I'll show you just how big, so to speak, right now. There he is next to the Magic Square Prime. They've always felt a little big to me. Some people view them as being bigger than what I feel like they were. You know, my motto, scale is in the eye of the beholder. If that seems appropriate to you, then you're in luck. To me, it's a little outside the ballpark. And there he is next to Cesium, and like there's things that I think that the Grassor does aesthetically that blows this away, and vice versa. But one thing for sure, two things for certain, the paint on the Grassor is far superior to the Fans Toys one, which is really what it's going after here, right? And does so successfully. Final thoughts wise, we'll start with the negatives, and there are a few. I don't like the clearance issues in the hands going into the forearms. I don't remember that being a problem on the first one, but I'm certainly noticing it here. Where the two ends of the tail tab together is especially scary, especially since the tail had issues on the first release. There's also a few little clearance issues here and there, the wings going around the shoulders, etc., but they're not as much of a big deal. And then there's a few joint tolerances as well. The wrists are a little too tight, the biceps are a little too tight, some of the fingers are a little too loose, etc. I also wish that there was a little bit more articulation, but this is a bulky figure, so it's hard to kind of pull that off, so I get it. I just feel like I have to mention it. Positives wise though, I think it goes without saying, this is without a doubt the most beautiful paint job I think I've ever seen on a transforming masterpiece scaled figure. It's absolutely stunning. The shading with washes and airbrushes and highlights by using metallic paints and dry brushing and weathering, etc., it leaves no stone unturned. Truly, truly, truly beautiful in that regard. Has a strong presence due to its size and bulk, of course. The materials feel good. The plastic seems sturdy, and it even has a little bit of die cast in it. I think the sculpt is great in terms of line work and stuff. I'm not crazy about the proportions of the Dinosaur mode, but outside of that, I think the sculpt is beautiful. Cleans up like a champ. Once again, I'm not crazy about that Dinosaur mode. It keeps coming back to my frontal lobe. But if you like the way this thing looks in Dinosaur mode, if you like the way that it scales, which is another thing I'm not crazy about, I can assure you, you won't have a more beautiful piece in your collection. And I think they've already done the snarl in this design as well. But I have to say basically I'm saying that to say this, if you like the design, if you like the size, you won't have a better looking figure on your shelf in regard to the scale. I do want to say real quick though, before we get out of here, I want Gigapower to continue making figures, and I'd love to see them do something outside of the Dinobots, which they've been doing for the past 4 years, if not 5. Like, it's time. It's time to move on. It's time to bring the next design to the forefront. It would be nice to have another company that makes a good product throw their hat in the ring. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.